Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar sponsored by SCORE Fairfield County. Today's subject is Navigating the Digital Marketing Maze. I'm Steve Smith, the webinar coordinator and also a business mentor here at SCORE in Fairfield County in Norwalk, and I'll be your host. Our presenters today are Susan Catalano and Robert Clark, and I'll give you more about them and their backgrounds in just a second. But first, the obligatory short blast on SCORE. As you know, I'm sure by now, SCORE is a national organization. We have offices, I think about 325 offices throughout the United States with over 10,000 volunteers. SCORE is a part of the Small Business Administration of the U.S. government. It started in the mid-'60s, specifically to help small businesses get started and flourish. In Fairfield County, we have 110 volunteers, plus or minus a few, that have various degrees of industry expertise, business process expertise, and are deep in some subject like, for example, digital marketing. Our three primary value-added services, and you're taking advantage of one of them right now, are one-on-one counseling, which we typically do at our offices at 111 East Avenue in Norwalk. That's for people who have a specific need and want to talk to an expert about everything from building a business plan to building a marketing plan, how to run their supply chain, things of that nature. We also run a series of workshops and webinars, and that's where you are right now. We do about 125 to 130 workshops per year. Typically, they occur at libraries throughout Fairfield County. And our webinar program is currently 2 per month. Sometimes we get 3 in per month. And I'll talk about the next one in just a second. We also have a very powerful website that we encourage you to go to, fairfieldcounty.score.org is the name. And there you'll see how you get into counseling, how you sign up for workshops and webinars, and importantly, the third value add that we supply is the resources, tools, and answers to frequently asked questions about everything from starting a business to how do you build a P&L to how do you manage your balance sheet, everything needed. So that's pretty much what we are at SCORE. And again, I'll probably say this 3 or 4 more times, but please go to fairfieldcounty.score.org to get a full view of what we can do for you. Our next webinar is January 9th. And the subject will be time management, meeting your goals. Time management happens to be one of the primary subjects that you all have asked for us to discuss on these webinars, and we're trying to meet that obligation. You'll be getting, in fact, this morning, if you're on our mailing list, you got your invitation to time management, meeting goals, because I got it. And so I know that one's already out. You'll get another one 3 days prior to the meeting, and then a reminder on the morning of. Now, today's event's going to end sharply at 1 o'clock in the spirit of time management. And it is being recorded, as they said, and the slides will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org later today. Now, we set aside time for questions and answers at the end of Susan and Bob's presentation. If you have a question, please log it in the chat window at the lower left of your screen, and I'll monitor that. If I see a particularly good question, I'll probably interrupt them and want to go directly to the question. Otherwise, we'll answer them at the end. One more thing here. We're going to be asking you via email to evaluate the quality of the webinar, and we really appreciate your input, and we really do take action on your input. Now to our speakers. Let's get going here, right? First, Susan Catalano is managing partner of JQ LaCourte, which is a full-service LinkedIn consultancy that provides LinkedIn-based marketing, business development, and employee advocacy programs for businesses. She has over 15 years of experience in talent management for Fortune 500 corporations. sales and marketing programs for companies and individual business owners. Robert Clark is managing principal of Lucid Point, which he calls a boutique digital agency specializing in online marketing, email marketing, marketing automation strategy, and execution. Bob has over 30 years of experience in advising businesses from small business to Fortune 50 companies, nonprofits, associations, and industries on marketing, sales, operations strategy, and information technology. Two really, really talented people. And I'm going to turn it over to Susan right now to get started with their presentation. Susan, take it away.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much for that introduction and that overview. And we are today going to cover just one back to get there. Oh, we have lost it. We're navigating the digital maze. And those are the things that Robert and I are going to be covering today. Hopefully everyone can now see the slide. That's our contact information. As the folks that will be speaking today, we are absolutely encourage questions, so type your questions in. And whenever possible, we will answer them either during the presentation or we will also leave some time for questions at the end. One thing you should be mindful of is this is how we do it for our clients. So this is real practical advice you could take after the session, and feel free to contact us if you have any questions after the session as well. All right, let's get right into it. Robert, why don't you start us off and just talk about what are we going to cover today?
Sure, you bet, Susan. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to cover some of the marketing fundamentals that you really need to keep in mind as you try to market your business on social media. We're going to cover some of those. We're going to tell you which platforms to use and what some of the characteristics of those platforms are. We're going to cover human behavior for marketers. What aspects of human behavior do marketers need to keep in mind, particularly in these online platforms? And we're going to talk about content that works, content that will really get your message out there.
Great. Robert, thank you very much. Let's start first off with segmentation. Segmentation is one of the marketing fundamentals that we cover with all of our clients. And all of your clients, your referral sources, they fit into different segments, which pretty much just means you need to. These are different groups of individuals that you need to get in front of, you need to speak to in reference to your business and your targets. And it's really important to know who those targets are and divide them into the right grouping. So you might, for one of my clients who's a manufacturer, one of their targets and referral sources are salespeople. Another target, might be the red people. Another target might be engineers. And as you can imagine, you probably have to speak, and you have to reach these individuals possibly in different places and different platforms. So it's really important as a marketing fundamental is to know what those different segments are, and also be mindful that you need to speak to them differently as well as reach them differently. All right, back to Robert.
Thanks, Susan. So here we have one of the models that are out there, and this is a nice, succinct one that's easy to remember, and it's the consumer or the customer buying cycle. And everybody, as they make a buying decision, they go through these stages: awareness, interest, desire, and action. And you, as a marketer, you need to move those folks through this sequence before they will go and actually buy products or services from you. And so you can't shortcut this, right? And this kind of makes sense. In order for someone, let's just take an obvious example, in order for someone to even know to come into your shop, they need to know your shop exists. That's awareness. They need to know kind of what you have on offer. That might be interest. And if you have a sale or a promotion or you've got something new, that can start to build desire that can get you to the action that brings them in. And as you think about your segments, the segmentation that Susan just mentioned, and as you're marketing to those different segments and different folks, you have to keep in mind that people may be in different places on this AIDA continuum. And so you may need to be putting messages out for awareness while you're putting messages out for interest and desire, etc., all to drive that all-important action.
Let's move on to touch points now. Touch points are just the interactions that you have with clients, prospects, and referral sources. And it could be in many ways. In fact, in the traditional direct mail platforms, if you will, you needed to have 5 touch points in more traditional ways. Now, because we have moved into digital platforms and a digital arena, our touch points need to be much more numerous in nature, because we're cluttered, we're always on platforms, and in order to get those individuals' attentions, clients, prospects, referral sources' attentions, we need to be in front of them in a bigger way. In fact, Google did a survey just last year, and they determined that now, instead of 5 touch points in the traditional, we need to have, as business owners, 10 touch points. And this year, which is wrapping up the surveys that have been coming in, it's even more than that, closer to 13 touch points to do so. So hopefully we'll help you decide where's the best places to have those contact points. Back to Robert.
So and that's a great point, Susan. I really just want to emphasize this. There's no more one and done, particularly when doing this digital marketing piece. You're not going to send out one thing and expect people, first of all, to even see it, and then to take that next step along the AIDA model. You have to be out there constantly. That's really what this is saying. A continuous program, consistently publishing.
So let's talk a little bit more, or a little bit, about human behavior and how it's really changed in a big way, especially because of digital platforms and digital influences. But for some reason our build is no builds. Okay, good to know. So just in the last 15 years, our attention spans as humans has clearly decreased in a big way, from 12 seconds to 8 seconds. Usually this right side here, with our goldfish, is a question that we ask. But clearly our attention spans as humans is less than goldfish. So keep that in mind when we're trying to get in front of prospects, referral sources. We need to really capture their attention quickly, because if we don't, they're going to be distracted and move on to other things. Okay.
Next, we're going to go into the next section of this. We're going to talk about content and messaging for online marketing. And this slide, this works well in the builds when we do this live, because the 3 most important things in online marketing are content, content, and content. And it's the old thing, like location, location, location. It's content, content, content when it comes to online marketing. That's really to go back to grabbing their attention and making sure that people are interacting, they're getting their attention, and they're interacting with your online marketing messaging. The content really needs to be right there. And the number one driver of this for online marketing, and it really works well for small businesses, is seasonality. Seasonality, literally matching your message to the seasons or what folks are already thinking about. Now, if you're from the Northeast, and I know a lot of the attendees here are from the Northeast, we have 4 distinct seasons. Sometimes within the span of a week we have all 4 seasons, but we do have 4 distinct seasons. And if you tie your messaging to what folks are already thinking about, you're going to help get over that awareness hurdle. So an example, obviously right now there's a lot of holiday messaging out there. That's fairly obvious. But around April 15th, Susan, what are folks thinking about around April 15th?
Obviously that's tax season.
So that's tax season. So if you happen to be you tie your messaging to tax season, or other examples, the leaf pickup, or Halloween, or Valentine's Day. How could I forget Valentine's Day? Yeah, I know that's a problem. If I forgot Valentine's Day, I promise not to in the future. So if you can tie your messaging to that, your messaging is going to go a long way, or certainly much further. All right, let's move on to how we kind of structure content for our clients. And this is still me. Okay, so here's what we do when we have our clients. When we work with our clients, and here's the way we structure content, and this works well, particularly if you've got a blog post going, if you're putting blog posts up there on your website. We have them identify the topics in advance. Identify the topics in advance. You know, what's kind of one way that they could start to map out, like for an entire year, map out the topics that they want to cover in their social marketing? Seasonality, right? That was on the prior slide, so I hope you all have that answer. So we have them map that out in advance. Then we have them go through and compose, or we work with them on some of this stuff too, you know, compose the article or blog post, and that's going to be the big piece of content. But the next thing that we do, the way we structure it so that it has a great utility and it's easily translated into posts, right, is to make each paragraph a standalone thought. So this is not written like when we were little, at least when I was little. You know, we were taught to do sort of deductive essays, right? Your writing was, you know, problem statement, hypothesis, and, you know, some evidence, and you get your conclusion at the bottom. Well, if you think back to that goldfish slide and you've only got less than 9 seconds to get somebody's attention, don't expect them to go through this big deductive reasoning thing that you've written. You have to put the conclusions up at the top. And so if you make each paragraph a standalone thought in that process, you can take, well, let's see, what's on the next slide? I think that's where we have it. Yes, indeed. Each paragraph can become a post, and that's kind of hard to see here on the screen, but that's literally what we did with this particular article about secondhand smoke. There was each paragraph turned into a separate post. So you write one thing, you break it down into pieces, and you've got a month's worth of LinkedIn posts, for example. Susan?
Okay, great. So here's some things to keep in mind when you are crafting content and putting it into posts or in different platforms, social media platforms, or in your email. You absolutely have to distinguish. Because we're all cluttered and you have to get people's attention in a very quick period of time, certainly distinguishing your messaging and have it stand out from others, especially competitors, will be a key component to having the right people read more and learn more about your company. Crystal clear messaging, for all the same reasons I said before, really incredibly important. Must be short, sweet, and to the point. No words that are unnecessary in any sentence, or it should certainly be removed because we're trying to capture folks' attention. A easy user experience in every way. Of course, a lot of times we talk about that around a website. The layout and the navigation of everything needs to be very important, certainly on a website. But on every post, wherever people are expecting to click somewhere, they get exactly where they're going. And it's very clear that it's you. Every place they go, all your branding is clear and consistent. Be sure your content is speaking to each of those different segments, those different groups that I've mentioned before. It's really important. If you're trying to get in front of salespeople, be sure you're speaking in a manner in which they understand that is very important to them versus other segments that are important to your group. We humans, people, love images. Accompany an image with everything you do. And if you can, from time to time, to do video, we do enjoy video. It is very attention-grabbing. But keep in mind, those first 8 seconds, just as we mentioned before, you need to capture their attention in the first 8 seconds of a video, or you've lost them and they've moved on to something else. And multi-touch strategy. You need to be on the right platforms and certainly be having many contact points with them so you stay top of mind and those individuals are learning more about you so they can purchase with you at the right time. All right, let's move on to the different platforms. Is that the, yep? So let's dive into some of the different platforms, some of the most popular platforms where you'll find most of the members on, and we'll give you a bit of an overview. But before we do that, let's just talk about how do you determine which platforms to use for your particular business. So let's advance the slides. I'll take a couple of these, Robert, then I'll have you do a few if you would like. Sure. So how do you know if the right social media channel is right for you and your business? This slide should provide you with some guidance. First and foremost, certainly the most important is that top bullet is, are your customers, are your clients on that particular channel? And we use channel and platform interchangeably here. So those are your primary buyers, right? These are your clients, your customers. If they're on a social media platform channel, then it's a good idea for you to be there. It's not a good idea for you to be on platforms or channels where they aren't present. You're wasting your time. Influencers are another thing you should be considering when you're deciding which channel you should occupy your time and get content on. And influencers is another way. These individuals aren't direct buyers, they aren't customers, but they influence a business, they influence a buying decision. So I always like to use the example of home health care. The elderly typically take advantage of home health care, and they foot the bill. So that's a primary customer of are the elderly for home health care agencies. But children of those elderly influence decision as to maybe what home health care agency one uses. So you need to be mindful of who those influences are and what platform they are on. Even though they may not be doing the actual purchasing, they may have a big influence on the purchasing of a purchase. And also referral sources. Who are referring business into you? Who are those individuals that are always helpful and natural referral sources for you? They may be on a different platform, so you need to be mindful of that as well. I'm going to turn over the rest of the bullets over to Robert.
Thank you, Susan.
You're very welcome.
Okay, great. So this slide. Let me take one step back. How do I know if a social channel is right for me? And this is sometimes Susan calls this the money slide. Isn't that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Very good, the money slide. So rather than go through, because we're not going to have time here to go through every single platform, Instagram and Snapchat and this, that, and the other thing, this slide is intended as a guide for you to determine on your own whether or not you should be marketing your business on one of these channels. So as Susan said, are your customers on it? Are your influencers on it? Are your referral sources on it? Absolutely. If they are there, you should be there. But we have some other things too, like are your competitors on it? And particularly if you're starting out, it's kind of a great way to do a quick test to see if it might be viable, right? If your competitors are already on that platform, you might want to check it out. Maybe they've done some of the groundwork or the legwork for you. You can just kind of latch onto that. Are your suppliers on the channel? Because if your suppliers are, you're going to find that you can get some information for your business from them, certainly more quickly than they may mail something to you. But most suppliers are announcing things, whether it's on Twitter or even on Facebook, depends. They're announcing things on social media. In fact, lots of folks are announcing things on social media nowadays. And you want to stay in tune with what's going on there. You should be on that platform as well. Can you do market research? And the answer to that one is, well, if your competitors are on it and your suppliers are on it, then yes, you can. You can kind of check out what other folks are doing, whether it's your competitor or, again, if another idea, if you're starting out, find another business that's similar to yours maybe in a different geography. So, for example, let's go back to the flower shop. Was my example a flower shop earlier? Oh, actually, we don't know. But in case it was, if you're starting up a certain kind of shop here in Connecticut or on the East Coast, go find one on the West Coast, right, that has similar demographics in the area, and see what they're doing. See how they're promoting. See how they're using social media. It might be a nice guide for you. And this last question: can you advertise? The answer to that is yes, you can advertise. You can actually advertise on every one of these social media platforms. You can promote your posts. You can help build audiences on these platforms. So you spend a little bit of money and you can get much greater reach for your content. And this note right here at the bottom, where all social activity helps your SEO, we get that question a lot. And, yes, it does. Fully 80% of what Google looks at when they're trying to figure out whether to put your website up in response to a search query comes from what they call social signals, sort of validation that's not on your website, that's out there in the rest of the social online world that reinforces the answer to the question. So keep that in mind. There are multiple reasons why you would want to be on a channel and why you would want to be marketing yourself online.
So let's talk a little bit about platform effectiveness. I love this slide. This is a survey that was taken with all marketers and what platforms that they find to be most effective for them. And the left side of this particular slide talks about B2B. These are other businesses that sell to other businesses. And as you can see, the platforms they use, the platforms they find most effective are differ than what B2C platforms have. And that's something to keep in mind, and hopefully this can act as a guide. If your business is B2B, this is provides you with some guidance, what some platforms might be better and more effective for you. Clearly LinkedIn and Twitter being the top two pieces for B2B. And if you just look over now on the right side of the slide, B2C, clearly Facebook and YouTube are the two top pieces, but clearly Facebook having the highest percentage of level of effectiveness. All right, let's move on to, let's talk a little bit more about Facebook. Facebook is clearly the largest social sharing site for users and businesses. It by far has the most amount of members registered compared to any other platform. What kinds of things do you typically post? And certainly B2C, as I mentioned before, this is a very good platform for B2C, business to consumers. But the kinds of things you would post are certainly texts, links, lots of photos, videos that are going to engage folks. You certainly inform and definitely promote your business. Not only inform your business about your business and what you do, but also promote your business is very acceptable on the Facebook platform. Level of frequency, usually 1 to 3 times per week is about the right number. And the demographics, it is pretty much consumers, as I've mentioned, and pretty much everyone is on Facebook, almost everyone. This is what a Facebook post, a business Facebook post would look like, and it happens to be one that I did on Facebook. Just so you get a sense, there's some introductory text in the very top. There's always a link that takes the individual to your website, and that's really very important. If I forgot, an image is incredibly important as well, as I've mentioned a number of times, etc. That's it. Did you want to add anything? Yes?
I do. So we get this question a lot. We don't get this question as much in the live sessions as we used to, but but if anybody's starting out in particular, this may be a good segue here. People say, can I just promote my business on my personal Facebook page? And the answer is no. You may not. You should, and nor should you. So as you're doing your content, you want your business to be your business, and you want your personal life to be your personal life. And so that goes throughout pretty much everything, right? Talk about time management. Steve mentioned a little earlier, but even on Facebook. So create a separate business page on Facebook. You do it through your personal page. It's over on the left-hand side. We're not going to go through those literal things. You can look that up. But create a separate business page and make sure your content is all about your business and only about your business. So no commentary on sports or religion or politics or any of that other stuff. No pictures of the cat, unless you're a veterinarian. Then, of course, you may put a picture of the cat up because it's related to the business. Make sure you draw the line, keep it distinct, and you're going to be a lot better off. Let's talk a little bit about Twitter. Who's talking about Twitter? Oh, I am. Okay, Susan's pointing at me. I'm talking about Twitter. So Twitter, here's another interesting, well, I'm going to say it's interesting. a year and a half ago maybe, there wasn't as much understanding or recognition of Twitter as there is now. And something must have changed out there in the world that people have become more aware of Twitter. But from a business perspective, it's social conversation and information sharing. It's short, right? It used to be 140 characters. Now it's 280 characters, and that includes spaces. So you need to keep your messaging short and sweet and succinct. Generally, we do a headline, a link to something else, and a hashtag. We get this question like, what's a hashtag? And we're gonna see one in a minute. A hashtag is a way to categorize your content. The frequency, up to 5 times a day. There's really no limit, but you can do just a lot of tweets. They sort of don't last very long. They kind of, unless you're very prominent. But from a business perspective, they tend to evaporate, is probably a good way to say that. And so you can put the messaging out slightly different. You can put your messaging out a lot. It's not going to annoy people. People will not be annoyed by a lot of tweets from you. The demographics on Twitter, a little, you can see the age range there. It's primarily an 18 to 29, although a lot of people use it. It's primarily 18 to 29, slightly more urban folks, slightly more educated, slightly higher income, as opposed to, as contrasted with, the general populace. And so let's take a look at a tweet here just in case, and it's one of Susan's tweets again, just in case you haven't seen a tweet. Up here, she's got a link. She's got an image in here, but up above, you can't see the mouse, I'm sure, but you can see her name. You can see @JQLacourte. That's her handle, the date, and there's her 140-character or less message at that point in time. And if you clicked on that, the introducing LinkedIn thing below, anywhere in there, it would take you to YouTube, and you'd be able to watch a video. So a great way to sort of promote content, share content, curate content. All right, let's move on here. Let's start talking about LinkedIn. Susan, I'm going to guess this is you. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Thank you, Robert. So next platform we'd like to discuss is LinkedIn. We'll do a little deeper dive into LinkedIn. Most people know it. It's great for job seekers, but it's not just for job seekers. It is a wonderful marketing and business development tool that other businesses can and should use, and that's pretty much what we're going to cover today. So why LinkedIn? Any clients that come our way, we say, well, LinkedIn is a serious professional platform. It's all business. There's nothing about it that is personal, like you have the distinction with Facebook. You can have a personal Facebook page and a business one. Even if you have a profile page on LinkedIn and also choose to create a specified company page, it's all business and serious. There's over 530 million members. 2 people are joining per second. And I think one of the most distinguishing features, if this is good for your business, always keep that in mind every time we talk about one of these slides, is it good for your business? Do you need to get in front of these individuals? But the distinguishing factor for LinkedIn is a quality audience of professionals. They're more affluent, they're more educated, they're more employed. 4 out of 5 of the members are driving business decisions, and they have 2 times the buying power than an average web user. And it's also, and lastly, very importantly, it's a data-rich platform. You can search and determine industries, employers, and titles and skills, because we professionals have been packing it with this valuable information that we can easily access on a regular basis. Okay, so, I see. We can only use the mouse to advance. Hang on just one second. Does my business need LinkedIn? Yes. If your clients, prospects, and referral sources are professionals, and if your goals are to be found, to find, or be more visible, then clearly this is a good platform for you. Professionals are using it certainly for job search, professional development, business development, and research purchase decisions. They're doing a lot of research on the platform before they make a decision. It's a great place to have a touch point, especially in the decision process. And 50% are more likely to buy from a company that they've engaged with on LinkedIn. Marketers are using it clearly in a big way because professionals are coming here looking for valuable information. It's the number one channel to distribute content and drives more traffic to the websites as well. How do you do it? There is a very clear step and format to do so. Clearly your LinkedIn pages have to be perfect, and search optimize is one of the key components to that. What does search optimize mean? Essentially, if someone is searching for you within the platform, they easily find you. And the way to do that is to add the keywords and phrases that prospects and clients would be searching or throughout your profile so that you rise high in the search results. Okay? Client-centric, of course, we talk, speak directly to your segments and speak to exactly whom you want to get in front of on the platform. That's really key. And describe what you do and your business does and how it differs from others. Let's move on. Look like you belong on this platform, right? This is a serious platform. Get your picture, get a professional photo done. It's incredibly important to do so. This is a representation of your business, so certainly get a good photo if so. Step 2 to being successful on the platform is building your network. You can, with your LinkedIn profile, actively build your network. Sending invitations on a regular basis are really key, and you should be targeting folks that maybe you don't know. Clearly you don't know, but very first and foremost would be sure you're connected to all your clients or customers unless there's some confidentiality reasons for not doing so. But that's just the low-hanging fruit because those are always our best referral sources. Certainly target referral sources as well, influencers, as we mentioned earlier, and then, of course, people that are likely interested in your products and services. LinkedIn makes it very easy to build your network, even using the basic free platform. Step 3, as it is on every platform, is you should be sharing relevant content, posting information to stay top of mind. This is what a LinkedIn, if we move to the next one, this is what a LinkedIn business post looks like. Not too dissimilar. There's some introductory text, takes you to the website, and you always accompany it with an image or a video. Larger firms that have many employees, it's really great to get your employees involved in your social media effort because there's no better fans than your employees to share information. It's more authentic and it's more credible. And if your employees are sharing your messaging, it does have a multiplying effect across the platform. All right, let's move on now to email marketing and marketing automation. I'm going to turn it over to Robert.
Thank you, Susan. So yeah, let's talk about email and marketing automation. Email marketing and marketing automation. So, here's the question and the answer, and the kind of fact. The number one app on smartphones right now, and everybody has darn near everybody has a smartphone, at least around here, is email. More than half of all emails are opened on a mobile device. And we're talking now, remember, keep in mind what we're talking about. We're talking about marketing your business with email. We all get email marketing pieces. And this down here, more people own a cell phone than own a toothbrush. I think that's still accurate. And by the way, I know several people with multiple toothbrushes, so that's kind of like really gross. Okay, why does email work? Why does promoting your business by email work? It's a great way to nurture folks who have already made contact with your business, right? And people check their email all the time. I know some of you out there have been checking your email in the past 35 minutes. Don't tell me you haven't been. I know that you have. And people check it all the time. They check it multiple times per day, and 88% of people regularly check emails. And why do marketers use it? Because it's reliable, it works, it gets delivered. You don't have to rely on people finding you or seeing your posts. It gets delivered to them. It really, if it's annoying, if you're getting emails and you're dismissing this marketing channel because it's annoying to you, it just means you're annoyed at the emails that aren't really interested to you. And so make sure that you get permission. You are emailing to only people who are really interested in getting your messaging. emails changed. This was this slide was a build. Don't market with regular email. Don't try and market your business with a Gmail account or an Outlook account or anything. And the reason is that the whole online and the mobile world changed when this guy over here on the left announced that thing over there on the right that he's holding in his hand, and that's the very first iPhone. This is a photograph from the iPhone launch, whenever that was, 8 or 9 years ago. And before this, if anybody remembers, before this we had some rudimentary characters on the screen. We could do SMS text messages, and that was it. And this really brought what I call the beauty or the sophistication of the artistic sophistication of the Apple operating system to a mobile device, and the world has not been the same since. So why do I mention all this? If you're going to market your business by email, make sure you do it right. People are going to read it on an iPhone or this type of device. They're going to have certain expectations about what it's going to look like and how well it's going to be presented, and a regular Gmail kind of thing isn't going to work. Let's talk a little bit about marketing automation. I just want to make sure that we're going to leave some time for questions here, so we're kind of going through this here. Simple email automation, simple marketing automation is really, if you've heard the term autoresponders, you can set up sequences of emails that go on a regular basis. So here's, if you read from the bottom, the E1 is the first effort, and then E2, E3, E4, E5. Here are 5 efforts that are already pre-programmed. Okay, so the first one, when somebody, in this case, somebody responds to the website, they immediately get an acknowledgement email. And then if you look up at the top where it says E2, 4 days later, another one goes out. And then 8 days after they sign up, another one goes out. And 14 days later, and 20 days later. So this is a nice automated way to nurture somebody who was interested enough to give you their contact information on the website. And you can look over here on the right side, and you can see some of the metrics that are involved. Here. What percent opened, what percent clicked, and you can get a lot of detailed information. You can get those through regular email programs, but the first step in automation is to do these autoresponders or set up these sequences. And you can also set these up so that if somebody clicks on something in an email, it switches them from one autoresponder series to another because you're now starting to get a little more information. Kind of the next step up in automation is to start to build landing pages, separate landing pages. If somebody clicks on something, whether it's a social post or something in an email, you can bring them to some content on your website, or it certainly looks like it's on your website, that is very specific to the link they clicked. So now we've got a nice, tight integration between the interest that has been expressed by the person, by the prospect, we hope, the soon-to-be client, and the content they see when they click through. So, why have them, if you sell 3 things and if you sell bicycles, fences, and buckets, and they clicked on something about a bucket, don't bother showing them bicycles and fences. You want to sell them a bucket because that's what they've expressed interest in. As we go along the continuum even further, you get into what I call true marketing automation. The foundation of marketing automation is email. There's a lot of email nurturing, but it really starts to expand out. You can track social activity. You can start to find somebody's account on Twitter and see what kind of interactions they may have with your Twitter account. For example, you track their web visits more closely. You can start to score them. And the automation will say if somebody comes back 3 times and does 2 things that are really appear to be valuable, that's the point at which we might have a salesperson call them. And it really starts to integrate. You can start to integrate it with CRM, customer relationship management programs, and it starts to have a lot of those functions built into these automation platforms. The interesting thing about automation is, and with this next slide here, what does this one show? Oh, you can do automated workflows. So here's another example. If something happens, then do this. Or you can start to set up logical graphic workflows actually in the automation platform. So it's very sophisticated. Here are all the things you can do. There actually are some more that just came out for this particular vendor. We have multiple vendors. I'm not going to read all these because you can read them and you can see this later. But all of these things can be done. They used to be really expensive, but the price has come down quite a bit for a couple of reasons. One, there are new market entrants, and it's technology-based, so the ultimate price of technology tends to come down over time as capabilities increase. And so if you've looked at this recently, or if you looked at it a while ago and thought it was too expensive, revisit it. In fact, kind of the general advice we give on all these marketing platforms is revisit them. Don't decide once and decide it's never going to be right for you, because things change. The platforms change. Even as I mentioned, something as simple as Twitter going from 140 to 280, that could be a significant change for someone. And the usage patterns change. Different adoption, different groups, different segments, potential segments for your business may have adopted a platform or have aged into it. So keep all of that in mind. Susan, you want to do this one?
Sure. Thank you, Robert. So now you've seen essentially the kinds of things we do for some of our clients and the overviews that we provide to help them and guide them. You can make some decisions about what platforms and what kinds of initiatives or things you want to at least look into, as well as implement right away. But some pointers to take away to think about always, no matter what you decide, is always use client-centric language. Be sure you're speaking directly to the segment that you want to speak to. Publish consistently, not just one and done, as Robert mentioned before, but on a regular basis. People are going to forget about us, but also do it in the right frequency for the platform and for the audience. Link back to your website always. Doing it with a blog is a great way to do so. Share stories, share cases, excellent ways to do so. Curate with attribution. You don't always have to write everything yourself, or all your content does not need to be original. You can certainly get information from other individuals, suppliers, or providers that are help educate and inform your connections, your referral sources, etc. Certainly stay compliant. Be sure to follow the rules of each of the platforms, especially around email, and use the right platform and email service provider for your particular needs. Okay.
Thank you very much, Bob and Susan. That was fantastic, and the timing is brilliant. I love it when a plan comes together. But the bad news is I've got a really tough question for you here off the top. At least to me it sounds tough. It's from Joan McDonald, and you can actually read it on your screen too, guys, but I'm going to read it for you as best I can. Joan does workshops for K through 12 teachers, mostly in New York City. The purchasers of her services are school leaders and teachers. They're the recipients of the services. How do I figure out which touch points, keyword I think, are best for my business since school systems are so closed? For example, I can have lots of touch points with teachers on social media, but they have very little influence over what workshops their leaders buy. So the teachers, yes, you can influence them, but the superintendent or the principal are not necessarily getting the messages, the way I kind of understand Joan's question. Any guidance for her?
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for the easy question. Joan, that's actually Joan from New York. That's actually a great question. Because it really it's a nice comprehensive question for everything we sort of covered. So I'm going to direct you back to the money slide, which I know you can't see, and we're not going to try and find it right now. But think through. You have a multi-constituent buying situation there. All right, and so now break it down into people who influence the purchase decision and the purchasers, right, and people who influence the purchase decision, and people who might refer you to people who do so. So just quickly, you've got administrators that are and probably purchasing people in the school districts, I'm guessing. Those would be on LinkedIn, right, because they're professionals. They're probably maintaining a professional presence on LinkedIn, so I would look there. And then in terms of people who could influence it, I'm thinking parents, PTA people, So I would go to Facebook for those people because that's more of a consumer-oriented platform, as one of us Susan mentioned that. I'm going to give you credit for that one. All right, so break it down and figure out how you can reach people with these online platforms. And also keep in mind, we're talking about navigating the digital maze. There's more to marketing than just digital, right? So maybe you do need to try some direct mail. Maybe you do need to go an event like a show of some kind or an education fair or something. So you're not going to do it all digitally, but that's why we call the marketing mix the mix. Susan, do you have?
I do want to just add one last thing if you haven't mentioned this already, and it's back to the money slide as well, market research. So if you have larger competitors that are doing something very similar, see where they are. That can certainly help you determine what platform makes sense for you as well. All right, any more questions for us, Steve?
Yes, actually we've got several. I'm going to take these in order that they came in. So Angela Russo asked this question: if the person clicks on your image, will it automatically take them to your website? Is it necessary to include your website link in your text paragraph? So I think the question is basically, I've got a picture, I've got some text. If the visitor clicks on either one of those, should it go to my website? What's your thoughts on that?
Another good question. Thanks, Angela and Steve and Angela we don't know where Angela's from. Thank you, Angela. So the answer is yes. How about that? So if they click on your logo or your business name, yes, it should take it back to your website. You always want, and people have, people are trained, particularly, well, all of us now, we're trained. An image is clickable. We just think that it is. And so if an image is not clickable, we think something's wrong. And you don't want people thinking there's something wrong with you or your business. You want to be savvy. You want to be with it. You want to be now. And not being, those aren't trite phrases. You want to be, your business is in the 21st century. You're selling to 21st century consumers. So yes, those things should be clickable. Now, the second part of that question was, do I need to put my website link actually out there somewhere in the social posts? Maybe, maybe not, right? If you want to bring them back to your website, by all means. But if you're curating content, for example, if I'm sharing an article from the New York Times or the Norwalk Hour, most likely, and just like Susan's post, the sample post we saw, if you clicked on that was going to go back to a YouTube video, right? So if you're curating content, you're sharing someone else's content, you want the link to go back to their content. That's sort of what Susan meant by curation with attribution, right? So you're going to give. And those folks, if I share a New York Times article online, they're going to be happy with me. And I don't know if they're going to call and thank me, but they're going to be very happy that their content is being spread even further. Hope that answers it, Angela. Answer is yes and yes.
All right, thanks, Bob. Moving on here, we've got a lot of questions, and we only have like 7 minutes left, so I'm going to move here kind of quickly. We have a question from Marion Lanat. I hope I pronounced that right. How do you know emails are being delivered with all of the spam blockers out there? Who wants to take that one?
Susan's giving me the high sign. I've got that one. I'm the email guy. So, Mary, great question. And the answer is you do not. If there are spam blockers, there are email blockers, they're going to block the emails. If a person, if a recipient sets, if they mark you as spam or junk, they've marked you as spam or junk. There's really nothing you can do to control that. And sort of a correlate, except, good content. That's why we say only send email marketing to people who have told you that they want to receive it from you. That's number one. Yes, have a great subject line so they're compelled to open it, but in terms of technology, if somebody has a spam blocker, if it's being filtered out, then it's being filtered out. You're not going to get through. Just like if you have an ad in the newspaper and somebody decides to wrap a fish in it, they're not going to see your ad.
Okay, great. Thank you. Here's an easy one, kind of a corollary question. What's the best email service provider? I know you're probably going to say yes and yes, but take it away, Bob.
You're starting to get my answers in advance. So, what's the best email service provider? great question. We work with many of them, and the answer so it depends. And I know that's probably not the answer you wanted to hear, but it really does depend. Does it? Do you have a lot of time? How sophisticated do you need to be? How much of that automation stuff do you need? Do you need to do the autoresponders? How many autoresponders do you need? And so typically when somebody talks to us about an email platform, we're going to assess what they want to do, what they want to accomplish right now, where they want to take the business, say in the next 18 months or so, what they expect the content and the emailing to be like, and then we can choose the platform. You really don't do it just on price. If I can just give you one bit of advice, don't do it just on price. Do it on sort of matching the features and then how easy it is for you to use. From our perspective, we look for things that have the ability to sort of get under the hood, so to speak, and tweak the code. But if I have a client, for example, that they're going to be doing a lot of the things themselves, I look for something that has a really simple kind of drag and drop interface where they're not going to spend a lot of time.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Another question here, Ruth Hagney. I'm sure I didn't pronounce that right. I apologize, but the question is, how do I link my blog automatically to appear on social media sites like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook? How do I automatically appear on social media sites?
I'm doing this one too. All right, so I'm going to take so this is going to get into, and I know there's another question too about, how do I, distribute my content to multiple sites, etc. So there are a number of tools out there that help you to accomplish these things. To the blog question per se, that's going to be I'm pretty sure that's going to be a function of the blogging platform. So, for example, if you have a WordPress website and there's a blog page on there, there's probably a plugin that allows you to, and a plugin, if you don't know what a plugin is, it's an add-on module. A lot of them are free. Sometimes you pay for them, but a lot of them are free, that adds extra functionality to your WordPress site, and it's designed that way. There's probably a plugin, and I don't know what it is, but there's probably a plugin that will take a blog post and create social posts for you, or at least sort of set them up in advance so you can edit them or tweak them or create multiples and then post from there.
All right. Yeah. So there is another question. I don't know whether, Bob, whether you think you answered or not on what product do you recommend to send content in multiple platforms for delivery?
Around the scheduling, if you do need to be on more than one platform, it makes sense to purchase, or there's some free apps that you can get where you can schedule your post to multiple platforms all at the same time. It actually is a wonderful tool to use. There's many of them out there. The most popular one is Hootsuite, although we're all having a little difficulty with it of late, but that's still the most popular one. But it does help you schedule and work with many different platforms at the same time. It does really save a lot of time to do so.
And another one I recommend that you check out anyway is called Buffer. And so where Hootsuite works that you get the content and then schedule it, Buffer works where you set the schedule and then you add content to it. So you have to think about that for a second. But if you set up a posting schedule in advance, then just go find, particularly that's good for curated content that you're sharing. You can just kind of drop it in the bucket or drop it in the hopper, and Buffer will spit out the posts according to the predetermined schedule that you've established. Steve?
Okay, Bob, great. Thank you. This should be our last question, I'm afraid. It's from Jim Reel. It says, given the slide that you all showed on effectiveness of the various social media platforms, how did users of those platforms define effectiveness? Good. All right. Good luck with this one.
Got that one. It's on you if you would like. Yeah, I'll take that one. So that's a great question. How do they define it? Oh, here we are. Who did that? Oz, the man behind the curtain, did that. Yeah, so actually there was another slide which we took out in the interest of expediency for effectiveness. And effectiveness is defined by the channel, right? So whether you're B2B or B2C. B2C, business to consumer, effectiveness is really very, very tightly tied to sales, right? So, people coming through the door, ringing the cash register. That's the B2C primary driver of effectiveness. On the B2B side, it's lead gen, okay, lead generation, because business-to-business sales typically are a longer sales cycle. They can be multi-constituent. They are more complex, which, they think that summarizes it. You can't really draw a direct correlation between sales and the social media activity. So what they do is lead gen, qualified lead gen.
All right, Bob, that's great. Listen, we're going to just kind of wrap it up now, and I know that, Sherry, I didn't get to your question, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if you send an email to Bob or Susan, they'll try to help you with that, and you can see there. Actually, why don't we go to there's the last slide, so you can email them, Sherry, if you don't mind. So that's it, and listen, just two other things. We do have these webinars every other week, and the next one is January 9th. And again, the topic is time management, meeting your goals. And on behalf of SCORE, I'd first like to thank all the people who participated today. Some really, really great questions, and a lot of really great content, too, from Susan and Robert. So thank you very much for presenting. Really great. And also to those of you out there, please visit fairfieldcounty.score.org to find out the full range of services that we offer, as well as going to webinars, archives, and then you can see this presentation and listen to it again. So listen, have a nice day. Happy holidays to everybody. And again, thank you for joining us. Goodbye.